Do people's parents really help them out financially with big life expenses like weddings, colleg? Yes. Most parents help their kids every step of the way. Some parents can afford to do more than other parents. Damn man, these comments are making me so sad. My parents don't really care enough to do something like that. I've asked them for money in tight spots, and have always had to repay them in full within 2 weeks. Depends on the culture. In Asia, parents will support you if you ask help. It is socially obligatory for them to pay for your university education, even up to your postgrad if they can afford it. For weddings, parents usually offer 50-100, but couples usually just ask for the balance they can't afford, otherwise parents will have complete control over wedding decisions, and we don't want that. Haha. It depends on the socioeconomic situation, also the culture. So I've met some PPL whose parents helped pay for significant life expenses, some don't or can't. Yes, it's very common. I'm not afraid to admit I'm not a self-made person. My parents ask for money from me and my brothers for their big expenses. Mine would if they could, at least mom would. But they have a 4-figure annual income, so there's no way in hell they could offer any financial support. But they help in other ways. When my husband and I got married 20 years ago tomorrow, mom made my dress from scratch for about 15. She helped me fill out my FAFSA forms and helped me find tribal scholarships when I started college. She practically moved in with us for the first few weeks after our daughter was born. And now my daughter is 18, and I want nothing more than for her to know that she's loved and supported, and has parents who will always be a soft spot for her to land when or if she ever needs it. A family that doesn't support each other is an awful thing. I'm sorry yours aren't being what you need them to be. Yes, it's common. My parents could not afford to help with college expenses. I had to help them with rent and groceries when I was in high school. But when I finally went back to college in my 20s, my mom lived with us part-time to offer free childcare when I was in classes. She helped all of my siblings out with childcare at various times. Now that my mom is older, we all help her out with tech stuff, place to live, medical things, etc. Wealthier friends' parents paid for school, gave them the down payment for a house, etc. In my experience, people who completely cut their kids off are dysfunctional outliers. Life is hard, and people need support to survive. Healthy families help each other out throughout the lifespan. Very common for parents to help out. My parents gave my brother $15,000 for his wedding. I know people often give their kids down payments for their first home. It's all based on what they can afford. It is common for parents to help with big life expenses for their children up to at least age 25 and sometimes older. The abrupt cutoff at 18 or 22, if college, is a very American thing that I haven't seen in other places. I don't think it's the majority of Americans, but it's common here. I'm from Mexico. Over there you don't leave your parents' house until you marry. It's also common to get and give help to family members when needed. My grandparents on both sides were poor when young, but eventually made a ton of money. They gave a house to each one of their kids, plus helping with weddings, baptisms, etc. When you get trained like that, you try to do the same for your kids, and to give back to your parents when they need it. I appreciate how lucky I was with my family. Now, I'm lucky enough to be making good money, currently paying for college for both of my kids. Yes, most parents I know help their children. From the time they were young, I socked away money for college. Now, I'm socking away money for their weds houses. They probably could do just as well on their own, but I will help them if they need it until the day I die. My parents did that for me, and I hope they do that for their children. I don't understand parents who kick their kids out of the house when they turn 18. Yes, in Asia and Middle East, parents support their children financially all the way through college and up until they start their career, even masters and post-grad. It is normal. Then, children support their parents financially once they retire. Parents also happily help pay for weddings and other big events should children want help. Financial contribution is one way Asian and me parents show love. Lol. We operate as a family unit our entire lives, and don't do the whole we don't owe each other shit BS. Yes, my parents helped pay for both mine and my brother's weddings, and with baby stuff. I'm currently paying my daughter's rent for uni, and will do the same for her brother next year. Sorry dude, your parents suck. Yes. Some families, yes. Boomers seem to be way less likely to fork out for their kids, unfortunately. My boomer parents were gifted their house deposit. My parents gave us absolutely nothing. Although my mother helped trim some curtains we paid for and sewed them, etc. Thanks mum. Yes, very common. I had a coworker who, after her parents died, she sold the family farm, then gifted $50,000 to her 2 sons for them to eyes as a down payment on houses. All parents are different. I never asked for help from them, but they still offered to pay for my college tuition just undergrad, and they paid for my wedding. They did have expectations though when I was in college for them to pay for it. I had to be in school full-time. I was to have at least a part-time job BC. I was expected to pay for my own books parking pass, and if I wanted to move out or go somewhere other than my local college, I would have had to pay my own rent. Fortunately, they let me live at home until I could buy a house, so I wouldn't have to rent. So I was able to buy my first home 2 months after graduation. My husband, on the other hand, was completely different. His parents basically cut him off when he was 16 since he could get a job. Once he turned 16 and got a job while in high school, they didn't pay for anything anymore. He paid his own phone bill, had to buy his own groceries, and expected to pay part of the rent utilities where he lived with his parents. No bro, only rich people's parents do. If you grew up poor like me, having parents actually costs you money in adulthood. Probably typical for wealthy or middle class. I grew up poor, so had no help with anything. He'll hopefully be their first generation to be able to provide real assistance to my children. I already have an investment savings account for my future kids that I haven't even had yet.